Silent night, crowded night. A video posted by the Legacy Megachurch showed a Christmas service packed with worshipers, maskless and singing. A similar video surfaced at an event at Calvary Church in Albuquerque. Now, the governor's office fined both Legacy and Calvary for not enforcing mask mandates and for violating capacity limits, $10,000 each. Both churches have conservative activist pastors. Steve Smotherman and Skip Heitzig, as you know, were making a statement. Crystal, do you think they got something across here, or is this something that I missed and the rest of us missed here?
You know, it was, and I'm actually trying to pull up the statements that they both made. That's a really difficult situation for the public, for commentary, because the churchgoers themselves knew the risks that they were taking by participating in Christmas Mass, and then obviously the administration. But what I found very not necessarily the best public relations move, in my honest opinion, was that not only did they respond to say, when one church had said, we're going to fight the $10,000 fine, the other one said, we deeply apologize. We did caution everybody, and we were trying to be as conscious as possible, considering the square foot capacity of the church. But then they came out and talked about the great charitable things that they did over the last several months during the pandemic, to show that they were trying to support the community, right, and the money that they raised. But it was like, what happened to humility, guys? Like, come on. And it just became really, really difficult to say, like, who was in the wrong and who was in the right. Obviously, the easy answer is, stay at home, wear a mask. Don't participate in things like this. And it is absolute good leadership to make sure that you protect people that you serve. As you notice, the Archdiocese of Santa Fe has been tremendously suffering because of all the Catholic churches that have been closed by all this. Right. But none of them have been spotlighted the way that Legacy and Calvary did. So it's not hard to say no. But it is not difficult to find ways to pray together if that's how you choose. So.
Giovanna, let me read you a quote from Skip Heitzig from Legacy Church. He provided this to KRQE News 13 about that Christmas Day service. Quote, "We have taken the pandemic seriously from the start and have prudent measures in place. But when governments exceed their constitutional authority and contradict what we are called on by God to do, we answer first to His authority." Interesting point there. There's like three things mixed up in there, but I want you to get your overall take on that quote. Does that settle the issue for you?
Well, yeah, when I read that, and that's what I was going to bring up here, was just the blatant, the statement there that actually the law, like, that they're above the law. I mean, that's basically what he's saying. He's saying a lot in that statement. But what I took away was, wow, okay, here's a leader who many, many people follow. And he is, basically saying, we're above the law. We don't agree with the public health order. Therefore, we're not going to follow it. And then in the same breath, he's saying, like, we're doing everything we can in the pandemic. It's just a big contradiction. And when you talk about leadership and telling the truth and doing the right thing, none of those boxes are checked here. And it's very unfortunate. And the fines, they're seeing these fines, which are really small, I think, compared to probably what they could be. But and I don't know what, I'm not sure what the fines really do in terms of a response. But yeah, it was an insufficient explanation for what happened.
I apologize to Mr. Heitzig real quick. He's of course associated with Calvary and not Legacy. I apologize to him and the church there. Go ahead, Crystal. My fault.
And I'm just going to comment really quickly. If he feels that we have to follow the law of the Lord in this particular situation, why did Pope Francis choose not to have any type of services for both Easter and Church Sunday? The Catholic Church the Catholic Church would easily rebuke that specific argument.
You know what? Another thought on this, church members interact with the truly vulnerable. I mean, we talk about this all the time. That was one of the reasons why the governor cut down the percentages, of course. And doesn't this behavior put those vulnerable people, Justine, at risk?
Yeah, I think it does. And I think to put it in context, our state government has acted pretty gingerly with respect to the churches and been pretty careful as litigation has proceeded. And I'll say, Skip Heitzig may appeal to natural law now. This is like classic forum shopping. They went to federal court and they were shut down. And the reason that they were shut down is, I think, there's a principle in law and economics called the least cost avoider. This is a classic case where there's a really inexpensive and easy and cheap precaution that these parishioners and these churches can take to increase safety. And that's all they have to do, whether you agree or not. It's science agrees that it will do that. And so if we want to predict how these cases are going to come out in court, when they can take that easy precaution, they should. And if they don't, they're going to lose. And so now to appeal to natural law, I guess you hope you get a different answer. But yes, we're talking about very vulnerable populations, and we're talking about a collective action problem that is so serious because, I think Crystal started out talking about assessing the danger and the risk to oneself. Of course, the problem with this pandemic is that we have exponential spread with the virus, and so you have to assess the risk to many hundreds and thousands of people beyond yourself, and we're not good at doing that. And I think it's incumbent upon these church leaders to consider their parishioners and everybody their parishioners have contact with. But in context, I think the government has been careful and has thought. Michelle Lujan Grisham has really considered the First Amendment implications. You look at these fines levied against businesses, right? Over $70,000 last week at O'Reilly Auto Parts. They're trying to allow these churches to proceed and recognizing the importance in the community and that this provides community for so many people. But they had to do something. It's a huge affront to the executive order.
Chris, I got a question about messaging. We heard some noise out of the governor's office that, quote, one of our spokesperson called the pastors, quote, pro-virus. There's something going on here. There's like a loggerheads between the governor's office and some of these larger churches. Something's got to break here, it seems to me. Is that helpful, calling these people pro-virus?
It doesn't also help that, and again, the administration is what it is. There's no opinion on the leader. I actually think the leadership is great. We've started to see this becomes a discussion of the public information officials on the state level that have gone through so much burnout that sometimes the way that they've been addressing the public and other reporters in the past have started, it's very obvious of the tension and friction that they're feeling on a day-to-day basis. And I specifically point out an article that or a story that was shown on KOB TV, and it circulated the social media channels about how disrespectful the answers were from the PIO at the time. And as controversial as that is to bring up, when you're using terminology like pro-virus, or whenever you're creating responses with a lot of rigidity, or it's rigid in nature, it puts us in a really difficult position to really support the efforts, because we are all trying to find a sense of kindness and hope out of this entire situation. And so if I was the churches, or if I was working with another organization that was in a similar situation, to avoid conversations like pro-virus, I think it would be, it's maybe this sounds naive, but actually responsive language with kindness and optimism and forward thinking would be better than name calling.
Giovanna, could I ask you to pick up on this too? It's an interesting bit of this. I'm interested in your thoughts.
Yeah, I don't know if it's name calling or if it's just, it's just poor phrasing. But the point is that the churches were irresponsible. I don't know if that makes them pro-virus. I don't know what pro-virus is. Like,
Right.
everybody wants a virus.
Right.
But it's definitely irresponsible, and it's not just, it's not just like a business owner saying, like, come to my store and don't wear a mask. This is a leader of many people who are following the words that you say, and they are going to do what you do. We've seen this in the political realm, of course, at the national level with the leadership on this pandemic. And we're seeing, I feel like it's being replicated at this local level in the church leadership here. And the explaining away, we're serious about the pandemic. The only people that didn't wear a mask are those that we assume had a medical problem. No.
Right.
Those pictures, it was mostly people without masks. They were young. They didn't look like they had a medical problem. I mean, it's just, it's not truthful. It's not leadership. And it's irresponsible, and it's hurting people. It's hurting people. And I'm glad Justine brought up this conversation of the individual versus the collective, because I think we really need to look at what is the collective benefit here. What is the collective good? How do my individual actions contribute to the collective good? We have to be thinking at a higher level, people. Mm-hmm. We can't just keep on with this, me and my family, we're okay, I'm going to do what I want.
Wise words. Yeah, wise words there. We really appreciate that. Have to leave it there. Unfortunately, Our Land is next. Then we're back talking about an anti-discrimination ordinance right here in Albuquerque.